welcome to PhillyBurbs.com's preview of the 2009 National League Championship Series between the Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm Kevin Cooney, I'm the baseball columnist, and here's Mike Sielski, the columnist.
The regular columnist.
The regular columnist. As we look ahead at Dodgers-Phillies for the fifth time in history, these two teams will meet in the NLCS, second consecutive year. First, looking back at the Rockies series, Mike, what did we learn about this Phillies team, especially those two games in Colorado, the one-run wins over the Rockies?
I think it reaffirmed what we all kind of knew in our guts anyway, which is that this team is harder to kill than a weed. They ought to name them the Philadelphia Freddy Kruegers because they just keep coming back and coming back. And I think that is an intangible factor, that no matter who they play in the playoffs, whether it's the Dodgers, whether if they beat the Dodgers, it's the Yankees or the Angels, that any analyst of baseball and any fan of the Phillies has to take into consideration now that even games where it looks like they're not going to win and they shouldn't win, you cannot, under any circumstance, count them out. I mean, they had a runner on second, 2 strikes on Chase Utley in the top of the 9th inning, and they turned that around into a 5-4 win and got a save from Brad Lidge, which, quite frankly, is an even bigger comeback than what they did in Game 4.
And I think the one thing we learned also in that Rocky series, it's not going to be as easy as it was last year. Really, if you look at the road that the Phillies had last year, through the Brewers, which turned out not to be as tough as everybody thought, through the Dodgers, there was only really the one heart-stopping game in Game 4, and then through the Rays, which had some moments, but you never really felt that nervous. That was a pretty easy ride. This year, it's not going to be easy because of the Phillies' bullpen situation, because of the, really the unstable nature with Cole Hamels at this point. Everything's going to be a little bit of a grind in this playoff, which leads us to part 2. Last year's team, like we were just saying, the Phillies seemed to have an easy road through the Dodgers last year. This Dodger team, though, in my mind, is a hell of a lot better, and I think you agree with me on this.
I do. Their bullpen is significantly better. Their lineup is better from the standpoint of guys like James Loney and Andre Ethier are a year older, a year more experienced. They've been through the playoffs now once before. And their bench is better. Right. When you add Jim Thome, guys like that, offensively it's a better ball club. The question for the Dodgers is starting pitching. You're throwing Randy Wolf, Vicente Padilla out there. That's not a rotation that's going to frighten the Phillies in any way.
Clayton Kershaw is the one guy I think that will give the Phillies some nightmares. Sudoku Kuroda has given them problems. He looks like he will be back in this series, possibly for Game 4. But again, Wolf, a kind of a slop ball pitcher, and the Phillies adjust the slop ball pitchers the second time around. Well, when you look at Padilla will pitch Game 3. How's he going to handle that crowd at Citizens Bank Park? That's going to be, to me, a big key. But the Dodgers bullpen, you throw Sherrill at the back end, you throw Broxton, who is it seems a lot more composed than he was last year. The Phillies have to get the lead early in a lot of these games to avoid getting into that Dodger bullpen. There's going to be no Matt Stairs moments this year, in my mind.
I would agree with you, and they did that last year against the Dodgers. Right. Particularly in Games 2 and in Games 5. They took in Game 5, Games 2 and 5. Easy for me to say. Yeah. They took early leads in those games, and it allowed in Game 2 Brett Myers to kind of sit back and struggle his way through. He could give up 5 runs in his outing because the Phillies had built an early lead. It allowed Cole Hamels to pitch Game 5 with a clearer mind. Right. You're right. The Dodger bullpen is a significant advantage, at least on paper. Right. Now, having said that, we saw how things can turn around in the Rockies series. Right. Houston Street was 35 for 37 in save opportunities this season. Brad Lidge was a walking blown save for the entire season. And look what happened. Lidge goes 2 for 2. And Street not only struggles to close out Game 2, but ends up losing Games 3 and 4.
What can we expect from Cole Hamels at this point?
More unpredictability, I think. You would have to hope, if you're a Phillies fan, that the fact that his wife Heidi, the fact that she has given birth, the fact that that whole issue is off his mind, might help him somewhat.
Plus, he's going to a place that he's very comfortable with. Right. Throw a shutout earlier this year at Dodger Stadium on the Phillies' lone trip in at the end of May, early June. So I think that will give him some confidence.
Yeah, but this is an issue. I mean, let's face it, the only sure thing in the Phillies' rotation right now is Cliff Lee. Everybody was counting on Jay Happ to pitch well. He did not pitch well in Game 3 of the Rockies series. You don't know what you're going to get out of Pedro Martinez, who presumably would be a Game 4 starter. Joe Blanton didn't start against the Rockies. Charlie Manuel didn't even feel comfortable enough to pitch him as a starter in that series, used him out of the bullpen twice. So starting pitching-wise, you would think the Phillies have an advantage here, but Hamill's unpredictability and the unpredictability of the second part of that rotation behind Lee really makes things interesting.
And also when you look at the Dodger lineup is constituted of a lot of right-handed hitters, obviously Manny Ramirez being the main guy in there. The thing that worked for the Phillies' benefit against the Rockies may work against it, and that is the amount of lefties they have in the rotation, which could mean Jay Happ to the bullpen if you have a little concern about Scott Air, in that late inning relief with the ankle and the elbow problems and everything. So let's boil it down to it. Who do you like in this series? Who do you like in the American League Series too? While we're at it, and who are the two teams going to the World Series right now and why?
Boy, that's a good question. There is, deep in my heart, I would love to see a Phillies-Yankees World Series. I think it would be a ratings bonanza for Fox. I think it would be great for baseball because you've got the supreme juggernaut of the Yankees against a team that just, you can't kill. They won't die. I think the Angels are beating the Yankees. I think the Angels are a better all-around team. And I do think the Phillies, I picked against them in the opening round because I thought they were just wiped out and tired from everything they went through in the regular season. What they did in games 3 and 4 convinced me that I don't know that another National League team can beat them 4 times in 7 games. And that includes the Dodgers. I'll take the Phillies in 6.
Yeah, the Phillies have been such a good road team. I don't think home field advantage will play in this at all as far as out of LA. The Dodger lineup is significantly better. When you look at the way they... Last year, you shut down Ramirez, you shut down the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a lot better in their relief corps, too. That being said, I'm taking the Phillies only because I just don't see a way this Phillies team does not get back to the World Series. After you watched what happened against Colorado, you kind of believe that this is what this team is going to do. Yeah, there's some intangible at play here that I don't think we could explain. And I think the Yankees are the better team. I think the Yankees right now, and they're going to be able to throw, with the way the schedule falls out, they'll probably throw CC Sabathia 3 times against the Angels. I could see the Angels really having trouble against it.
It's interesting, for those of you who are Philadelphia sports fans, to look at it, to have this mentality or this mindset where the team that you root for, you have to start thinking of them as the team that's going to pull out the win no matter what. We're so accustomed to seeing Philadelphia teams crumble in clutch moments. That it's kind of strange, I feel like, to, based on what the Phillies did last season and what they just did against the Rockies, to be in a position where you say, well, this Philadelphia team will find a way to pull it out because we're not accustomed to thinking that way after 25 years without a championship.
And this has proven to be a very special team. You take a step back as a journalist and you look at things objectively. But, man, how can you not watch what's happened here the last, really, 3 years and realize that this has been a real special time for baseball in Philadelphia? Thank you very much for joining us here for our National League Championship Series preview. Look to PhillyBurbs.com through the entire series. Randy Miller's going to be in Los Angeles for games 1 and 2. He'll have full reports. We'll have live chats. We're going to have videos after all 3 home games, or what we think will be 3 home games in Philadelphia. And keep it here. This is your headquarters for the Phillies postseason here on PhillyBurbs.com. For Mike Sielski, I'm Kevin Cooney. Thank you for joining us.